Hey everybody, welcome back. We have a guest returning to our show once again, Alex Brown. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Alex is a videographer based in Columbus, Ohio, and he works professionally in the field. He's making a living and he's killing it out there. So today we're going to be discussing productivity and creativity and really what it means to be a working creative, how you can force yourself to overcome those mental blocks and move past your boundaries. So, Alex, what sort of troubles have you had with creativity and kind of pushing creativity in the past?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about creativity, there's a lot of things that come into play. Working on a marketing team and working in a corporate setting, you have a lot of external pressure to be creative and be creative consistently. And I think that's a big step. And also, when you're freelancing too, you have a lot of external pressure to be creative and to push things out quickly. Versus if you're doing things on your own, you have more internal pressure, and sometimes that can be just as difficult, but it's a different kind of pressure than like you're gonna get a stern talking to by your boss if you don't come up with a good cut or shoot this well or whatever.
And from my perspective, from my end, I feel like there's almost this anxiety that I get when I'm starting a new project where I'm getting paid for it and there are these external pressures, these expectations on what you need to be able to achieve. It kind of makes me tense up a little bit and starts to create that mental block that we need to work so hard to overcome.
That being said, I think that I think that that anxiety can push some people to be extremely creative, whereas like other people can perform extremely well by themselves, and that anxiety kind of bears down on them. And some people in that more free environment, they can create some really remarkable things. And I think it's more about knowing yourself, which is the best way for you to be creative.
Yeah, so it's not something I really think about since from my own internal lens, I don't really like the external pressure, but you're absolutely right. Sometimes some people really thrive in that environment and it can push them to create some really fantastic works. But we can't all be superstars all the time. So, what are some tricks that you've used to help bolster your creativity when you need to give it that last push?
If I'm in the middle of a cut specifically, um, I think that one weird thing that I do if I'm kind of stuck is I'll close my eyes and I'll just play the video through and I'll just feel the video and see where it needs to be just sound wise. Whether that's with dialogue or with music or with both, I just see where I'll I'll hear where I need to have the cuts and where things need to fall and like what I envision in my head. Um, if I'm shooting, um, one thing I like to do is if I'm stuck, um, I like to look up from the camera monitor um, and just take a look around, whether that's behind me, beside me, um, and this can be in a stage setting, or this can be in like a documentary setting where you're more on the fly. Just looking up from the camera monitor and seeing what's around you, and just seeing what's there um, can be really beneficial, because I think a lot of times this is true with editing, shooting. You can get barreled in to looking at what's in front of you and what's on the screen that you forget there's other stuff there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and that's something that I definitely do too. We haven't even talked about this off camera, so it's really cool that we kind of have this same approach there. We're going to talk a little bit more about shooting and kind of finding creativity and spicing things up with shooting a little bit more in a future video. If it's out, it'll be linked right here. So, from my end, something that I found to be really important for making sure I'm getting my creative bits done that I really, really need to get done is protecting my mornings. I've found that shortly after I wake up is when I'm the most productive. I'll make sure when I'm coming into the office to get started on my edits, I'm going to make sure that it is as distraction free as possible. In my mornings, I never even touch my phone until the first 3 hours of my day are done. I will make sure that it's even on this like distraction free mode where I'm not even getting notifications. It's basically like just turning it off, and maybe I should even start doing that. But the other thing that I will do when I need to kind of find creativity is sometimes I'll just ask other people for input. Sometimes it just helps to be able to, again, view things from a different lens. And if you have peers that you can ask for feedback or ask for some ideas, that's a fantastic sounding board, even just to get their original ideas, but also just to bounce off some of your own and see what they think. Some other things that I've done is maybe just watching the video with audio off, kind of the inverse of what you're doing with the sound approach there, Alex, which I have done myself, but just watching the visual of it and kind of getting a feel for what can be improved there. The other thing I'll sometimes like to do is look for inspiration. So sort of like you mentioned with shooting and looking around, just see what's already out there and see if there's anything that pops in terms of visual style that you can kind of incorporate into your own work. So that's kind of my own like system for making sure that I'm able to push creativity in the last minute. Another thing that I've tried more recently is also switching editing platforms for specifically editing tasks. When I was getting burnt out on Premiere Pro, I felt like I needed a change of environment, and since I couldn't really do that at work, I decided to have a change of editing environment. And it really helped me to feel refreshed to try using the cut page on DaVinci Resolve. I didn't end up sticking with it. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it helped me to see my edit differently and helped me to find some of that creativity.
Yeah, I think that one thing I also do in kind of spinning off of what you said about changing your editing environment, I think something I also do, and I've done this so subconsciously for so long that I kind of forgot that I do it, is if I'm deep in an edit and like I know I'm going to be editing for like 8 hours this day, or like maybe this whole week I'm editing one video or a bunch of videos or whatever, something I intentionally do is I get up and I walk every hour, so I'm not stuck sitting in front of the screen and getting that tunnel vision. I get up and I walk to the water fountain, or I walk around the building and just take like 5 minutes just to like get up and stretch my legs out and like get blood flowing and like get oxygen where it needs to be, rather than like cutting my lower half off by sitting down all day. And I found that really helps me just not get so drained from editing.
I really like that. Just getting away from it, giving your brain a chance to recover from the kind of like impact that we're throwing at it basically when we're trying to do these creative tasks. And I find it puts an enormous load on your energy just to be focused in on the edit for that long. So getting away from it, that definitely can help to change the scope of it.
When I was working for a professional sports team here in Columbus, I got really creatively burnt out. We were kind of structured around constantly creating viral videos and videos that evoked emotion. That was really hard to keep up that kind of creativity for a year, 2 years of constantly trying to do this. And I got extremely creatively burnt out, and kind of spinning off that, that's where I changed my work setting. That's when I got a new job. So sometimes it's just all about setting. It's all about the things you're doing, where you're at, that yeah, that matter a lot.
From my end, I went through a sort of similar creative burnout where I was just dragging myself into work and staring at the clock until the end of my day when I was trying to slog through all these edits. But once I started thinking about it in that terms of that 3 hour sprint that I alluded to earlier, of just hardcore focus in the first 3 hours of my day, and then after that, whatever gets done, gets done. I started to feel a lot better about the work I was doing. I was able to connect to it because I I feel like 3 hours is a lot more manageable in my head at least than 8 hours. But once I started kind of having that change, it gave me a goal to work towards. And I think if you don't have a goal, if you're just kind of blindly working on whatever assignments are coming in, then you're going to have that burnout because you need something that you're working towards instead of just having no end in sight. So, and if it really does comes to worst, then maybe it is time to move on and find a new position somewhere or find some new clients if you're in the freelance market. Just getting away from the familiar. I was hearing not too long ago or reading about kind of different zones of comfort where if you're in this range between being complacent and super terror stressed out all the time, and you're just kind of in this uncomfortable zone. That's what they call the learning zone or the growth zone, where you're able to push yourself farther and take on new skills. So if you're maybe a little bit too complacent or too stressed even, maybe it's time to step back and find something that's going to be better suited to you.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
All right, and I think that's going to wrap up my creative thoughts on pushing creativity. Alex, do you have any closing remarks before we finish things out here?
Yeah, I think creativity is a tough one because it's an ebb and a flow. It's not a straight line. It's constantly up and down, and I think you kind of have to the the uphill battle. That's where you kind of have to push yourself and really get going. And then there's other times where it's just everything clicks all the time, and it's just constantly back and forth between those two. So yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
And I think what that ebb and flow is really about is that you're not going to be on your A game at all times. You really need to embrace that sometimes you're going to be a rock star and sometimes you're going to be a sock star. Don't question it too much. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for us here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Alex, for taking the time. We will catch you all in the next one. Bye now.